That time again. We're doing a new thing. We've got the homie Austin. We've got the homie Casey. I am the homie Shane. We are all the 40K fanatics.
Bunch of mixed nuts.
It has been second Christmas at my house for some reason. On the week of November 5th. Second Christmas. I didn't even go to sleep. Stayed up all night. A joyous occasion it has been. I don't care who knows it. I'm just so glad that we, as a group, as a country, as a world, are able to make 40K great again, which we will talk about today because we're talking about list building in 10th edition, and Casey loves it. I like it. Austin?
I'm not the biggest fan.
Not the biggest fan.
Biggest fan of what?
List building.
Oh, list building?
Yeah,
That's what we're here to talk about?
That's what we're talking about.
Oh.
But first...
I didn't get the memo.
But first, I want to shout out a couple of comments. First of all, our last podcast, we talked a lot about the prospect of 11th edition. And somebody made a really good comment speaking on how they thought they were with me in 11th edition is nowhere close. And they were like, could you imagine with all these new people that played Space Marine 2 that are into this thing now, you know, sort of, they're dabbling. Right. And the guy said, could you imagine the hellstorm that it would be if you went to go get into it and everybody was like, well, now easy. They're about to switch the whole thing up. It's like, yeah, I'm with him. I don't think it's coming.
Solid point.
I think we're sticking with 10th edition for a long time. But there were, as of recording, some 2,000-something views, which is a lot for us, on the YouTube. So if you listen on Spotify and whatnot, you can go check out the YouTube as well. It's the same podcast, but with a little bit of visual component. And in fact, another commenter mentioned, and he was like, just a little bit of feedback. He seemed to enjoy the show, because he listened to the Bits Box, which we're about to get to, where we discuss what we've done in the hobby, in modeling and painting, in gaming over the past week. He said, I want to see the models that you guys have been painting on the video. Now, there's also painting going on at the homie Austin's house, so you're not going to be editing the pod this week, are you?
I am not. I am in a horrible situation with that.
Yeah, so they've come in. It looks like Mexico City at Austin's house. Everything's under tarps. Now, they've got new tarps, Austin tells us, that are totally sealed. He can't get them off. That blue painter's tape is really stuck for him. I don't understand what's happened. But all of his stuff is inaccessible. Is that right?
It's pretty sealed down.
Sometimes you got to work with what you got, right?
Apparently, he's got nothing.
I am a painting refugee. I have taken models to work on, and I have left the premises.
Looks like North Carolina in his house.
It's so ridiculous. Hurricane Helene came by for 2 weeks later, knocked out his hobby desk.
Too soon? Was that too soon?
It could be too soon, but I don't know, because it's second Christmas in North Carolina. I don't know if you saw it. But anyway, we're going to try to do that for that commenter and for all of you. Also, you can always see the Whip Wednesdays on X at 40K Fanatics. They're on, where we posted quite a few. I did an interesting thing. But let's open up the Bits Box. Hit the sound effects, Casey. Casey, what'd you do in the Bits Box this week?
What didn't I do in the Bits Box? All we know is that we did some October stuff last time. This week, I finished up 20 Jump Pack Assault Intercessors for my latest commission. So go check those out over on the X, because they look fresh. Pretty fresh.
So fresh. So clean.
Put them right there in between you guys. You might as well take a look. But I will be posting those on the YouTube now, because that was a valid idea from that guy. We could post those photos from now on also on the YouTube as they come out.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes the people on the YouTube get a bit antsy, I guess.
Sassy.
Well,
sassy on Sunday.
I think the thing with the YouTube audience is we are first and foremost a podcast, but we also put it on YouTube because it's free to throw it up on YouTube, and quite a few people enjoy their podcasts on YouTube. Now, what we're not going to do, I don't think, is throw up a video camera and have just us sitting here talking in this admittedly immaculately decorated room. It's not done very, very cute. we're not going to do that. So it's just a little bit of a repository, but then because of the way YouTube works, sometimes 2,500 people will go and listen to it. Again, our main thing is Spotify and all of your podcast apps. Also, I want to remind people to go on those and give us 5 stars. If you don't give us 5 stars, you're just a hater, and you shouldn't be like that.
Hate us because they ain't us.
They do. You know,
peanut butter and jealous.
Don't get me started on these folks that want to have their own podcast. You know, make your own podcast. Put out 100 episodes like we've done.
Yeah.
And then we'll have you on. We'll do a home and home, and it'll be really lovely.
We hit over 5,000 downloads this week.
Wow.
That's pretty good. Pretty
Right?
good. But anyway, go on all of that stuff. Like, subscribe, rate if you're able, because it helps us out a lot.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. We got 3 of us now, and you know how much money we've made on this thing?
My pockets are filled.
Well, mine are not. Not from this. Not a dollar. Not a dime.
I am full
Not a finnif.
and enriched with joy. I don't do this for the money.
I do.
He does.
Open that biz box.
We already did.
Is it open now?
It's still open.
You made me make the noise.
I'm on one today. Austin, what have you done in the hobby? Get close to that microphone so we can hear you in our new 3-man setup.
Well, as part of my painting refugee, I have gotten my old world dwarves, and I'm currently working on trying to build that battalion box. Working on warriors, thunderers, rangers, and some gyrocopters. They're coming together. I'm hoping to get to painting them soon once I get everything built.
Is that Age of Sigmar?
No, that's the old world.
The old world is good. I'm waiting on them to give me some elves to buy.
As soon as the prices drop on eBay, I'll be probably popping in on there.
Well, I don't want to get eBay stuff. I'm so bougie that I don't feel like people build their stuff cleanly enough for me.
But metal minis.
I think, well, they're going to have a whole plastic box or 2 of new elf stuff that I intend to get, and it's going to be lovely. I think it's, what are we looking at, Austin? January, February?
I think Empire of Men's coming first, and that should be January. Sometime first quarter, second quarter might be elves.
Man, I guess I got time to save some money.
Depends on how they're doing the compression of releases.
I was thinking about goblins until I think you got an army of goblins, right?
I have the goblins. I mean, you can go orcs and goblins, but I'm doing night goblins.
That's like the moon one, right?
Yeah.
With the spiders.
Yeah. Well, there's some spiders, but it's mostly the night goblins wearing hoods and everything.
I've been painting all kinds of stuff. I finished my Chaos Land Raider.
Boy, does that face look painted.
Man, I took, for no reason other than I felt like going full ball sack on a face, I dug around and found a helmetless head for a Chaos Space Marine and stuck it on the little gunner on top of that Land Raider. Just a stunt. I put him on some poster tack, on a wine cork, and probably painted for 2 hours on just his little noggin.
That's
and
a lot of dedication.
he is immaculate. He's the best. He's the best looking head / face that I can paint. Now that is one thing about him though, is he doesn't have, like, he's wearing that face mask, you know, his Voxcaster or whatever. So you don't get a lot of face to paint with that particular guy, but yeah, it was totally unnecessary. But it was that day this week that ended up so joyous. But when I started painting that day, I didn't know that it would be so joyous. I was obviously hopeful, so I needed some things to take my time and my mind. But also, I did that. I built a couple of ghosty skeleton horse things. I forget what they're even called for my Nighthaunt Age of Sigmar army. Got them primed. They're one of those easy build kits with the pegs. I've decided I'm going to mark it here. I don't like the pegs.
You don't like the pegs?
I don't like the pegs. They're hard to push together. I find that it works best if you trim them a little bit, and then they'll go in. I also use a plastic glue because I don't believe the pegs will even hold the thing together. But you get like this air compression thing in there if you just try to stick them together with no glue and no anything, and the air that gets trapped in it will try to push it out. So I actually
shave mine down, like if I ever have something like that, to avoid that issue.
I find if you take and cut, let's say the peg is 4 millimeters long, like a long peg. If you take 1.5 off the top, just a bite out of the top of it with your clippers, that it usually presses together good. But I take my plastic glue, and the top of every peg gets a big glob of it. That way it sort of melts on the way in. Now, The other side of that, though, is you got to make sure your pegs line up, and they don't always, because you never know if that box has been set on before it got to you, and I hate that. So I'm out on the pegs, I'm out on the easy build, but they were easy to build, and they do look great, and they're primed, they're ready to paint. To join my Knight of Shroud on Steed, or whatever he is, the guy on the horse, basically, to add to my Night Haunt Ghosts, and I wasn't done yet.
Wow. What else do you have?
As I made painting miniatures great again, with the TV running.
I hate you so much.
Feeling more and more joyous as the evening went on. Looking at you, Miami-Dade County. Thank you. Glad to have you in the fold.
This man is insufferable right now.
I've been on cloud 9 for a couple of days now, and it's not slowing down. Austin's with me, too. Anyway, I tried out a thing. It's a test model. The homie Valerie bought me Vashtor the Archiphane. Big old tall Vashtor.
Really?
Yes. So I've got him at the house. Now he's so fleshy.
Yeah.
But in a weird kind of way. And I wanted to try out what I saw on a Ninjon video. Go check out Ninjon on YouTube. I really like him. Really like their podcast, him and Miniac. Their Trapped Under Plastic podcast, available where all fine podcasts are given away for free. He did this thing where when he speed paints a model, rather than just prime it and then zenithal, he primes it, then takes like 3 colors, darker colors usually, but going darker to light, going from bottom to top, and you just gob on in thirds, wet blend them together, these 3 colors, and then start highlighting. No base coating. You just highlight so that you get these baked-in shadow colors. And whatever colors you choose, you end up with some interesting variety. And what you do is you kind of just let yourself paint with this sort of happy accident style. Mm-hmm. So I did purple, blue, aqua, and then I gave the guy a white sort of button-up shirt. So some of the shadow color in that white shirt is green.
Did you send me the photo of that model?
I sent you the one when it was like tritone, and I sent you the finished version.
Yeah, it looked interesting.
That's the whole deal. It bakes in a lot of interesting stuff before you ever really start painting. The pants ended up looking cool just from the wet blend. Mm-hmm. Didn't put a drop on them.
Wow.
So that's my bits box. Bits box, not much longer than usual with 3 people.
Short, sweet, to the point.
I saw somebody else got in the comments that said main topic starts at, and they gave a timestamp. And I mean, I guess that's fine if you guys don't like us.
Yeah, we had a lot of talk about last week. This week we were more, to the point, because we know we got a lot to talk about today.
I mean,
Austin's in Tent City over here, and I've only done like one thing.
I've got more stuff to say about Tuesday. If you want more of that,
you have more to talk about.
I mean, I can talk more about Tuesday evening. You guys want to talk more about Tuesday evening?
Gosh.
Audience,
Austin,
you want to hear?
Cut him off, please.
Disclaimer: the views of Shane do not represent the views of 40K Fanatics podcast.
I like that. That's great.
That is great. Close that bits box. Oh shoot! Open it!
What?
You and I played last week.
Oh, right. Yeah, we did. Wow, that seems like forever ago, though.
We played a 1K game.
We did.
Casey got tilted.
Man, it was... I don't know what tilted means, but man, it was a very...
Mad.
Yes. Well, it was like 1 a.m. when we finished, and I had an hour drive. So let's just... Yeah, it was a very uphill battle. Didn't expect to win. Haven't played Orcs since that tournament that, I kind of had that bad experience with. Austin can back me up on that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was just like, I'm going to lose this. Let's ball. And then, you know what? We both kind of just slapped together 1,000 points and went at it. And it was a very... What would you call that game?
It was
interesting. No,
it was one of those where your bit of rust does not play well with my sort of sharpness.
Shane's too good.
I was using the Veterans of the Long War Detachment. We were playing 1,000 points.
I castled.
You tried to castle with orcs, and the mission was...
It kind of worked.
Get out there and stand there. And so I jumped out there and stood there.
And you got blown away.
But not before I scored a whole mess of points. And then also I was using all my shenanigans
Gosh, I hate your shenanigans.
I was using all my stratagems.
Shenanigans were declared.
I had 2 different Chaos Lords who were able to use some free stuff for like my Evil Honor of Contempt, and I was using that reactive move and things of that nature, and it was chipping at you in a way. I also had my Terminator Lord, who I have painted up as an Iron Warrior with his big chain fist.
Dude, that was your hero right there.
Yeah, and you brought a bunch of cans, and he hates these cans.
Man.
That wounding vehicles on 3 is real serious.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and in my 5 Terminators, I own 5 Terminators. That's all I need. I need another box to, be able to run 2 chunks of Terminators with different characters. But
you just put him on a spot, and he just ate.
Yeah, first of all, orc shooting basically cannot move Terminators, especially when they're standing in the middle of a ruin getting cover and all that, right? And then I'm Armor of Contempting them for free from the dude.
Even with the +1.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But
10 Ludus.
But there's a chain fist.
Oh, wow.
10 Ludus on 1 Terminator.
That's a lot of shots.
That's a lot of shots.
Didn't matter.
Nothing.
Didn't matter.
And a mech gun.
Yeah.
Even more shots.
Yeah, I rolled a bunch of not 1s and a couple of 3s, and that's all she wrote.
Oh my gosh!
But then between the chain fist in the unit and the chain fist on the Chaos Lord, it's a rough time for a tank rocking up against those Terminators, because you think, well, I'm going to run these vehicles in there, they're tough. No, we're going to saw you open and take out all your mushy bits.
Shane, did you counter build?
No.
Like I said, I literally showed up and was like, yeah, I put my stuff together in like 10 minutes. And then he was like, I haven't put anything together. Dude, I started grabbing off shelves.
I said, I'm going to build my list in 2 minutes. And I think I did. But it was a good game. It was close. Casey did get tilted. That reactive moving and all that, and the fact that it was way past his bedtime.
A 2-point difference.
It was only 2, which
I had a huge comeback.
Yeah, it was a huge comeback toward the end. But
you had wasn't the deciding factor you did a reactive move and then I lost points, wasn't it?
I don't recall. There were a few instances where it just got away from you, I think is the thing, because.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's just rough.
Drawing assassinate behind enemy lines first 2 turns, basically.
Oh, that's rough.
Now we're to the point that we're going long bits box. Close that thing. Austin.
1725.
1725. What are we talking about?
We're talking about list building and how it's good or bad in 10th edition.
So, this is going to be a great topic for the 3 of us now that we're a 3-man show, because
we've been chatting about this.
We've got 3 different opinions on it.
Yeah.
Austin has problems, and the internet loves negativity. So, lay out your case for your problems with this thing.
So, my problem with list building in 10th edition is that things are in too big of blocks. There's no little tweaking you can do with units. For the most part, everything war gear is free. So, say my Cadians, for example, I can get them out with different war gear options, special weapons. And it doesn't matter how many. Well, it matters how many flamers and plasma guns I can add in, but it doesn't matter if I add them in, because it's still like 120 for Cadians,
right?
Or 60 or whatever it is. So at that point, there's no little fine-tuning with lists, and I end up down like 30 points that I can't fill with anything else.
Yeah, and it's very easy to see what is the best loadout for Cadians, because why would you not take all the highest damage dealing stuff that is available, right?
Yeah.
So your Cadians would look like my Cadians, and whose look like Casey's Cadians.
Right.
Siding over to the Baneblade I have, it's kitted out with 2 las cannons and 2 heavy bolt responses. Because Wargear is free, there's no reason for me not to add like phantom las cannons and heavy bolters to it, and just running it that way, even though it's not modeled that way. I am actually at a disadvantage if I don't run it that way.
Right, and yeah, because you're just giving up free weapons that made sense with paid war gear, because you could say, well, I don't want to. I mean, how many points is a Baneblade? I don't even know.
It's like 500.
Yeah, you wanted a 480-point Baneblade instead of a 540-point Baneblade.
Yeah.
Because, how many points does the Baneblade begin to be? Is it a law of diminishing returns? Like, now my Baneblade has more stuff, but I don't have anyone to stand on anything.
Yeah.
I think the sameness of units is a more interesting point of it, though, in that, like you say, a block of Cadians should have a loadout, and the loadout is a known quantity that is the best one objectively.
I don't know about objectively, because you can run into situations where if you want one squad to be more close up, I usually add like flamers and stuff to it, or flamers and meltas. And if I want a longer range squad, I'll stick to plasma guns and maybe grenade launchers. But it kind of comes down to not being able to kind of tweak the unit how I want.
Yeah, and then there's the unit size. Used to be a variable that we could do, so that you could have, if you wanted to pay for 5, then it's like 5 is the minimum. Then you could add 2 more Space Marines for however many points they cost with whatever you want, and take 7, and that was totally fine.
I miss that. I miss that a lot, actually.
Yeah, it all comes down to what they want to do is they want to sell you a box of models, and that's the unit. Everything is based on the ease of someone new getting into the game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But at the same time, we end up with all these war gear options that are useless, because I don't know why anyone would take a plasma rifle on a Space Marine, like tactical squad type stuff. I'm always going at this from the Chaos Space Marines, who work like tactical squads, where for every 5 guys you get a special weapon.
Right.
Well, it's a melt-a-gun, isn't it? If your options are one little flamer, one little plasma rifle, it's a melt-a-gun that you're taking.
Possibly.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Even if you're outside of melter range, it's AP4. And everybody's bringing all the tanks in the world.
I could get into the argument that a plasma gun would be better against Marines damage-wise.
But you're never fighting Marines anymore because no one takes them, because we don't have a point that I want to make that I think we need in list building in 10th is some force organization rules.
Don't even get me started on force organization.
Well, we've got a podcast to do. But let's get some thoughts from Casey, who do you spend a lot of time thinking about this kind of stuff?
I have up until recently. I do miss being able to mix and match up my units outside the 5s and the 10s range and doing a little bit of kitting up, especially, it is definitely built up for the new players to jump in and just go.
Yeah.
And I like that. But it was kind of nice being able to... how to say, meet the points that you want to do just by throwing on another guy.
Yeah.
Like,
how many?
I'm at 995 and I've got everything flushed out. I can't just throw on a boy and get 5 points.
Or swap somebody out for whatever the slightly better melee weapon is.
Yeah, or I'm 25 points down and I can just give somebody some war gear.
Yeah.
Now it's you're kind of stuck.
Yeah. How many lists have we put together that we get in the app and we throw in the stuff that we think is cool, and then you look at it in 1975, and it's like, well, let me look at an enhancement for 15, and then you're just stuck at whatever that is, 1990. Good year, bad 2,000 points. Why can't I pay for a Demon Blade?
Yeah.
For my little unit champion, and that put me, right there in 1999, and we party like it.
Exactly. It's something that I miss. I think if we sat here and talked about war gear for a minute, we'd probably be talking quite a while. But yeah, I miss war gear, and I miss being able to kit units to meet the points that I want to do, you know? Because then it used to be like if I wanted to play Austin on a Saturday, I'd text him up and be like, okay, I made my points, but I was only able to make 995. And you're like, well, I can get to 995. I'll just go there.
I'll just drop a plasma pistol on officer.
Yeah, you just drop something to meet the points, and it was kind of like a courtesy. Now you're just kind of stuck getting as close to 1,000 or 2,000 as you can, and you're sometimes it just feels kind of like you're at a disadvantage, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean we could get into how much
FOMO sets in.
Well, I mean we could get into how much 15 points matters. And I would argue that it doesn't at all because of the nature of the game balance to begin with, because 2,000 points of Aldari and Sisters of Battle are very different than 2,000 points of
2,000 points of Orcs,
literally anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do think that the game balance is good for rule of cool list nearly all the time because, we played a 1,000-point game. I forget. I think I had 990 or something like that, and I don't know if you were at an even 1,000. But the game couldn't have been any closer. And Austin, I played you the other day. It was the first time you'd played your guard since the detachment rule got changed, where it actually works all the time rather than parking lot guard. And, yours is a very rule of cool guard list. It doesn't have nearly enough tanks to be, the kind of meta list that people are using.
I've been playing the same list since 8th edition.
Yeah, and it was a pretty close game. Now,
if it works.
Well, if I've played it so many times, I know how to play it.
It ain't broke.
I have another point, though, on that, which is I find the 10th edition list building to be pretty good. But I think that's because my collection of Chaos Space Marines, which, again, remember, guys, your buddy Shane is a one-woman man. That's it. He only but so much has them wondering eyes for other armies. If I did, it'd be the Dark Angels. But I'm not, because I have self-control and I'm going to limit myself. I swear, you can see me sweat now. Anyway, but I've got such a big array of units that I feel like I can really mix and match my lists all the time.
Yeah.
I also don't pay for Warhammer Plus, and I like that every time I want a new list, I have to delete the one list they let me have in the app.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that. And then start over.
I hate that.
I like it because I always end up with different stuff.
I guess.
And I'll stand there in front of my cabinet and looking at all my stuff, every single thing is painted. And I'll be like, I'm gonna take that Vindicator tank. Ooh, I hadn't taken the Obliterators in a while. And so I have a lot of fun that way. I tell you the other thing, and Austin, this question goes more to you because you're the one of us that doesn't have it, but having multiple detachments, I think, is a total game changer on this list creation thing.
It is, because I'm currently just stuck with one list, so I'm kind of just plug and chug, just make my list.
Yeah, and to their credit, that combined arms attachment for the guard makes a little bit of sense. It helps the infantry a little bit. It helps the tanks a little bit. For being an index detachment,
especially with the update,
yeah, it makes a lot of sense to be good. But what if there was a detachment for just Rough Riders and mounted stuff, and it was all about like the little chicken walkers and dudes on horses? That'd be amazing, right?
That'd be a lot of fun.
But then you'd have to have an extensive collection to pick from.
Yes,
which is another angle.
Stuff.
Yeah,
right.
Because the other day when I played, it was when I played Austin, I took all the Demon Engines and did that new to me because I hadn't used it yet.
Yeah.
The Soul Forged Warp Pact.
That's Dread Mob for all of you orc players out there.
Yeah, well, there's two. There's an Iron Warriors one, which is real tank focused, and then this one's the Demon Engine focused one, and it was awesome. I had the Lord of Skulls, I had a Demon Prince who was my warlord who had the thing that can make a Demon Engine reroll hits and stuff if he's near it. So he was like my what's the guy called that runs behind him?
Warpsmith?
Yeah, the Warpsmith. He was like my Warpsmith, which I don't have yet.
I miss my Warpsmith.
It was great. And that game came down to the wire as well.
It was like playing a World of Tanks at times.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys sent me photos of that, and I was like, what is this, World of Tanks? And I literally said, what is this, World of Tanks?
We're getting tanks like one shot on each side, like one turn after another.
Yeah,
popping?
Yeah, just pop, pop, pop.
Yeah, popping tanks every turn. It was ridiculous. It was wild. And then, did Abaddon come through and chop up the Baneblade?
He wasn't in the game.
No, that's right. He wasn't. Something did.
I was surprised at that. It was Lord of Skulls.
It was Lord of Skulls. When it finally worked its way around the board to the Baneblade, it came in, and we went ahead and rolled the damage and whatnot because the I forget what it's called. It's some ridiculous name for a giant axe, which mine has got a blood embossed skulls all over it. It does 8 damage a pop, flat.
had like 8 health left.
Yeah, I want to say I might have done 32 damage. It was a very silly game, and it was great, but that was a totally different list building experience than I have when I do my Veterans of the Long War, which is a little bit more of the catch-all. And then I saw that it's gone up on pre-order. The new Chaos Lord with Jump Pack is about to come out and be in the friendly local game store.
Finally.
I got to have him.
It's great.
I got to have him because I have 10 Raptors. I've got Harkin. I'm going to split those two into 2 groups of 5. I'm going to run that Night Lords detachment where they make you take all the battle shot because they're scary flying around and stuff. It's going to be amazing. And that's going to be a total...
shock and left and right,
it's going to be a totally different sort of list building experience.
Finally, Chaos Space Marine players will not have to kit bash Harkin to get a Chaos Lord and Jump Pack.
I can't believe people do that. Harkin gets no love. He's my favorite one, and he gets no love. Everybody's like, oh, he costs too much for what he does. I'm like, oh, you nerds. Look at him.
Yeah. He came pretty close to killing my Gorkanaut last game. I'm just saying.
He's real good.
Came real close.
What do we think about force organization?
I want force organization.
I do too. Casey?
I don't know what that is. Explain it to me.
Force organization. I learned it.
Filthy casual.
I learned it from 9th, but it's been around forever in all of these games, and it is a list of requirements of unit types that you have to be a valid list.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I know what that is now.
Sort of like the 8th edition attachments.
Right.
Yeah, used to they called them detachments, didn't they?
It's like
in 8th and 9th.
One warlord, like so many infantry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I started, GT Nephilim pack or whatever was just finishing, and we moved to Arcs of Omen, where they took all that away and they opened up the list building. And what they did was they made it a warlord and 3 troop options, and everybody called that a troop tax. And I hated that with all of my hate, that you guys are out here calling it a tax, like I guess if I have to, that you have to take the troops who, I don't care what you say. The troops of the various armies are the representation of that army. Those are the guys in the tanks. Those are the guys that the Primarchs are in charge of. Those are the army. I'm sorry if orc boys by the 100 are busted and that Cadian guardsmen are not busted. That just has to be okay, because the army you picked is an army of orcs or an army of dudes in boots.
Yep.
Or in my case, they're regular old Space Marines. You know what you never see in an Imperium army anymore? Regular old Space Marines.
Oh, yeah, we talked a bit about this last week.
They're called Battle Line now, which is fine.
I was seeing tanks.
I would like a requirement for X amount of Battle Line units.
Yeah.
I also would like some sort of relationship between vehicles and foot soldiers.
So you keep talking about this in episodes, and I want to push back against that.
Okay, here he comes.
So with force organization, what I'd like to see is... I just don't want to pop the microphone.
Don't worry about it. We'll fix it in post.
What I want to see is force organization done up narratively, to where you can have your combined armies, but at the same time you can have things like tank companies, to where you have to take like a mounted commander, and then he can have like so many tanks with him. Like in 8th edition, it's like a heavy support detachment, but I want it based off that. Different narrative things. If you play Space Marines, you need to have a captain or a lieutenant, and then your guys underneath him. It needs to be organized like a realistic army force inside the narrative. You need to have, if you're running Terminators, run the first company and everything. Yeah. Have all your guys from the first company. If you're playing the Terminator one, I want the armies to look like the armies in the lore. I don't want like
3 captains.
Yeah, here's my 3 captains, and then my assortment of random vehicles, and then like whatever else is meta at the moment.
Right, yeah. You want it to be more thematic, more but balance like Shane would want.
Yeah, and I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know if that kind of almost militaristic.
It is a war game, Shane.
Yeah,
I'm coming from this from playing Flames of War, where that's the norm.
for sure. I think the problem that we'd run into with that is that take Leagues of Votann. They don't have enough. They don't have enough units to do that.
There you go.
But I do think like a rule of 3 is fine, but when they say, well, this version of this tank is a unit and that version of the tank is a unit, there's not much difference between them, and now you can have 6 of something. Okay, well then who's supporting these tanks? Who's running alongside these tanks? Who's actually clearing these buildings? Like if you imagine it was an actual battlefield and somebody is out here on oops all tanks, like it's I feel like what we're really saying is, because of the way that they changed toughness, which I think needed to happen, it didn't make any sense that toughness 9 was as high as it went. I'm glad that we have a higher resolution of toughness in the game.
Oh, yeah.
All right? I'm glad tanks are tougher. The problem is that now everybody's got too many damn tanks. It's not a tank game. If it was a tank game, I wouldn't play it.
We're not all Iron Hands here.
I'm not that interested in tanks.
I am.
I know you are.
This is the guy with the Bane Blade.
Well, you know what? Get someone to play Flames of War with you then.
It's Mr. Bolt Action over here.
See, I like dudes in boots. But I think that I think if you just crep everybody up to this, because the competitive scene hates the Force organization.
I like how we can generalize the two of you, but neither of you even came at me there just now. Because I'm having a good time.
well, that's your role in the pod. Is you're the everyman. You're out here just having fun.
I'm running anything I can.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But also, you're always rule of cool. So you're kind of not the people that are messing this up for everyone. Because if we're being honest, anybody with scruples that's running rule of cool is ending up with a good-looking, sensible force on the table.
Yeah.
It's these other mother bleepers that are just like, oh, what's busted? Seven chickens with AdMech or whatever the heck it becomes, right? 9 of them, however they work it out, that you have all these chickens and they're just cheap enough and tough enough that nothing can move them. So you go on chicken spam and that's what you do. It's
Shane's out here gaslighting.
Congratulations, you won the game.
Yeah, it's like as soon as you show up, especially against anybody that's trying to have an army that looks like an army, it's like as soon as you show up with that, I might as well be like, man, just take your 100 points, I guess. Like, however, the one guy in town that does do that very thing is one of the most fun people to play with, even when he's just meta kicking the crap out of you, which is hilarious. I love that guy. Shout out to the homie Zach. I mean, he will beat the brakes off of you
And you still like him.
in an hour and a half, and you'll have the best time.
Yeah.
He's always so fun to play. But
Models are well painted too. His models are pretty good.
I know. I mean, he look, if you're going to do that, do it like the homie Zach, because he's doing it right.
Be humble.
But also, I want GW to use a bit of stick, just like they do with the Baning, to keep these armies looking like the armies.
Yeah.
How you going to play Ultramarines with no Ultramarines? And I mean, I exaggerate a bit. People take a whatever. They take a little, infiltrator squad or whatever. You got some dudes and some power armor. You do. But it's not quite what you want. I want to see the blue boys chopping it up in the middle of the table with my guys in black, my men in black. Bzz. Now you forgot. Anyway, but I think we could walk these people up to sensibility by just coming up with some sort of way to limit the number of mechanization in a force without so much just saying, well, you got to have 3 troops. I'm like, well, then what people do is they take 3 units of 10 cultists and, for cast space marines at 50 points apiece or whatever they are, and they just sit back and stand around. And it's like, well, then you might as well not have taken them. All we've done at that point is say, okay, we're playing 1,850 point lists.
Loyal 32 for you 8th edition fans.
I don't know what that is.
That's what got me into guard.
Nice.
That and Look Out, Sir.
Yeah.
You love that thing, man.
Lookout, sir, was silly. I disliked that greatly.
But I think force organization, if they can find a way to force a narrative into it, I think that's one way to balance the game.
I also think it'd be neat too, because this is what we used to have, where the detachments were sort of the force organization, where you'd have like the fast attack detachment, and that would do some stuff. I wonder if the force organization, like let's just imagine a future where there's a force organization document that comes out for every army, and it's just a little 2 pages of PDF. Would it be cool to maybe have 2 force organizations for each detachment for like whole codex armies, where you actually have, because the Iron Warriors should have more tanks than something else, or I don't know. Now that I say that, it's like, well, but then the tanks are getting buffed by the detachment, and now you're making a detachment that encourages you to have more tanks, and everybody would just play Iron Warriors, wouldn't they? Or whatever.
Deathwing.
Yeah, whatever the equivalent is.
Or the tank equivalent, I guess, Iron Hands. Iron Hands.
Or does it make sense maybe for the force organization to be optional, and you get some sort of bonus for adhering to it?
Okay. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of Old World and bring in a little bit of Flames of War in.
Ooh.
I think what they need to do is have, like they have the regular detachments for 40K, have that be your combined arms. You get your however many troops you have to take, and then optional you can take like so many of these units. Don't do like rolls, have actual units. So you can have like so many Predators, so many whatever else Space Marines have, so many of these little things to add in.
Rather than always take 3.
Yes, and then when you want to do your other detachment, that's when the force organization changes. So instead, it's like, okay, now I'm going to take the infiltrator detachment, take the stealth detachment. So now I'm forced to take a stealth HQ, either the librarian or the captain, and then I can take so many, what are they called, the infiltrators, and then I can also take so many of the sniper guys, and then whatever else works with that sort of narrative fluff.
But does that limit the amount of tanks that you'd have then?
Okay, well here we go.
Because I have a fix for this, but go ahead.
I was gonna just say can't run tanks, huh?
I think the tank list would just go to sweeping.
Okay, well here's the thing: you don't have to have a list that's good.
That's true. That's true. Which all 3 of us are on that team. We don't have to have a list that's good. Here's how I solve it, because in my collection I've solved it. Vehicles, monsters, you can only take 1 of each, like of the unit. So rule of 3, fine for troops, yada yada. Make it rule of 4 for all I care. Make it rule of no rule. I don't care. Vehicles, tanks, etc. You get 1 Vindicator tank, 1 Forge Fiend, 1 Corn Lord of Skulls, 1 whatever the heck, right? No more of this. I'm going to take 1 Lehman Russ.
Well, here's the thing.
1 Gorkanath.
There are like 10 Lehman Russ units. So I can take 10 Lehman Russ of different units.
I knew he was going to say that, too.
I was waiting to pull this.
Well, and you know what? If we had paid war gear,
there you go.
That'd be different. And obviously the Tank Commander's unit, and then the other guy. And maybe, you know what? Here's another part of this,
Each gun is a different unit.
Well, yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
Well, and that's them, because the Tau Crisis suits, I mean, we're always hard on Tau in here, but the Tau Crisis suits are the same way, where they've said, ooh, this doesn't really make any sense anymore. The idea is that there's supposed to be multiple different crisis suits based on the gear that they have, except for the price of whatever, you take the best one. And so it's as if you just have this one type. So now they've made multiple types.
Yeah.
And then, oops, all crisis suits again. It's like, in the lore, I'm told, because I don't keep that much track of the Tau, let's be honest, isn't it supposed to be the crisis suit is when there's a big crisis? So there's like one of them.
I wish I knew anything about Tau.
I mean, get out of here with them. But what I was going to say is, let's be honest, a couple of these armies don't make a lot of sense compared to what the game actually is of 40K, which is Space Marines, and their ilk, right? So maybe Guard get to take more than one of each tank because that's what they do. Maybe Tau get to take multiple crisis suits or whatever because and their various little tank things because that's sort of what they do. Like there's different, these things don't all have to be painted with the exact same brush. But I just wish we got into a list building phase, and we're up on time, so maybe we'll talk. I mean, I know we'll talk about this in future pods, but I just want the armies to look a little more like the armies, and I think everybody probably wants that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think a little bit of restriction would cause people to find more interesting ways to do it rather than what we've got where all the units especially are all a bit cookie cutter because of the unpaid ward gear, and then the armies sometimes are very cookie cutter because there are no limitations. Therefore, if you could take anything, it's easy to establish what is the best thing.
People always look for that special sauce.
A sandbox is a creative place, but when you have a sandbox and you have restrictions that you have to try to find ways to build around, that's where true creativity comes in.
Yeah, and also I think when the sandbox that we're playing in is a competitive one, then everybody just makes packed mounds.
Oh, once someone finds the path to the right answer,
there you go.
Then it's all just a beeline to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of sand on the edges that I don't think enough people are using. Closes out, Casey.
Space Marine segment. Did you know that the Iron Warriors cut off their mutations and replaced them with augmetics
I knew
because
that.
they hate chaos? So, stay fanatical, folks.